Hi everyone, welcome to week 12. I wanted to make a quick introduction video just to talk about where we've been and last week and what we're going to see this week and what we have moving forward. Unfortunately, we only have a few weeks of class left yet. Actually, we only have 3 class weeks left. We have this week, we have next week, and then we have spring break, which we're not going to be meeting or discussing, and then we have 1 class after spring break. So we only have 3 classes left, which is really unfortunate. I'm sure everybody's going to be sad to miss the class after that. But I still think we have a lot of really good stuff left to go. And this week I think is going to be one of the most important, one of the most challenging weeks too, where I'm going to have you read the longest work of the semester, a full-length play. I'll talk about that in a second. So far we've done poetry. Our poetry unit is done now, done and gone. I've actually gone through all the discussion forums and all the journals throughout the entire poetry unit, and I've caught up with every single thing that we had. The only thing that I'm still not totally done with is the essay 2, the compare and contrast. There's a few that I'm still working on. So if you haven't gotten your compare and contrast essay back, you'll get that back soon, within the next few days. And if you want to revise that one, you still can. But otherwise, I've graded all the journals and all the discussion forums, so everybody should be completely caught up. So look back through your grades. If you feel like there's something that you turned in that I missed, let me know so I can get caught up with that, because ultimately I'm going to use the grade book to determine the grades for the class depending on what your overall average ends up being. So check that out. I also went through everybody's poem, and it was really impressive. A lot of people put so much energy into writing those poems. It just makes me want to teach a creative writing class and think about designing a creative writing class for the fall. There were just some really beautiful poems, some really beautiful images, some really powerful poems. I think some people put a lot of emotion into what they were writing, which I wasn't completely expecting that. I was just expecting more like, oh, here's my exercise in writing ekphrastic poetry. Instead, what I got was some really great poetry. So that was exciting to see. And it does make me want to teach a creative writing class, and maybe you guys will sign up for it. If I can get some commitment, maybe I'll design that over the summer to teach for the fall. But that was fun. Last week we started on drama, and we had a pretty good amount last week. We read a couple of good short plays, and some people responded really well, seemed to really like Trifles, which I think is a good play. The Worker's a great play. And what else did we read? Oh, Rodeo, James Martin. In my experience, people haven't really liked that play, but some people did seem to. And then we talked about critical theory, Marxism and feminism, and people seemed to really take to the ideas of Marxism. We had a really good discussion on Marxist elements in the plays. So I look forward to reading those journals that you turned in last night, and I'll get to those soon. This week, like I mentioned at the beginning, we're moving into a full-length play. And I've been talking about this for a couple weeks. I debated back and forth a lot about which full-length play are we going to read. I really wanted to keep it within the text so that you didn't have to do something outside of the text for a long piece like that. But in the end, I wasn't really too crazy about any of the plays in the text. I know they do The Doll's House in another class. Death of a Salesman, a lot of people have already read that. And then some of the other plays didn't feel just right. The Importance of Being Earnest is one of my absolute favorite plays. And I think it's like one of those pieces of literature that everybody should read, at least in one point in their life, because it's absolutely hilarious. And Oscar Wilde is on a different level of intelligence and wit and how clever he is. And the play itself is like a magic trick, the way that it just sort of everything resolves perfectly and ends up perfectly. It's hilarious. So I hope you guys appreciate it. That's not in the book, so I put a link to the full-length Importance of Being Earnest text, so you can read that online. I also have a printable copy, so if anybody wants me to send them a version from a book that I have that you can print out, I can do that too. I also put a couple of just things in the instructional materials to help you follow the play. I put a diagram of the characters. I put a study guide that can be helpful. You don't have to read it, but you can read it if you want. I think it can be helpful. The biggest thing this week is going to be finishing reading the play, and then we have a couple discussion forums on the play. One that asks about Marxism or feminism and the importance of being earnest, and one that just asks you, what's your favorite quote from The Importance of Being Earnest? And that's actually a really tough one because there's so many great quotes in there. And then the journal is just reflect on the end and the way all the plots in this, the the play come together in the end. That's the journal for this week. So it might seem like a lot because it's 3 acts, but if you break it up, they're roughly 20 pages an act or so. It shouldn't take you much longer than 2 to 3 hours. 3 hours, I would say, to read the entire play. So try to do that sooner so that you can get the discussion post for Thursday done. Also, next week we're going to watch a film adaptation of The Importance of Being Earnest. And your final essay, Essay 3, is going to be compare the film adaptation to the play. So as you're reading the play, you want to be thinking about, taking careful notes on it. What are the things that are happening in the play? What are the things that strike you in the play? What do you think about the characters? What do you think about their actions? What are your mental pictures of the characters? You want to try to figure out what are you taking away from the play, so that when we watch the film adaptation next week, you can really kind of compare and contrast and see how is the film different than what you expected, how is it similar than what you expected, and that's going to be the last essay for the semester, which you can skip ahead and look at that. For next week, week 13, I did put a link to a full-length version of The Importance of Being Earnest. It was a production, a theatrical production. It's honestly kind of a really boring production of The Importance of Being Earnest. You can watch that and you can compare it to the play if you want to, but there's a much, much, much better film adaptation, and it's the one with Reese Witherspoon and Colin Firth that came out a few years ago. And it's a really good adaptation because they really they changed the play in some ways, but in some ways stayed faithful to the spirit of the play in a way that the one that's on there doesn't necessarily do. So I'm trying to find a way that I can share with you that. I own it on Amazon, and in past classes I've showed it in class to the students, but because of copyright law and everything, there's no live links of it online, which is unfortunate. So there's a couple ways you can watch it. Either you could rent it yourself, or I'm going to test it this week and see if I can do a live screening of it through WebEx, and I might even be able to record the WebEx. So I'm going to play with that and see if I can make it available to you. But keep a lookout for my emails, because once I have kind of an idea, I'm going to send an email around and say, I'm going to do a live, simultaneous screening of the film through WebEx so that people can be available to watch it if they want early next week, and hopefully I'll be able to record it too. So I'll let you know about that, but keep on the lookout. That's what we're going to be doing next week, is watching the film and writing the essay about the way the film changes for the better or worse in adapting it to film from the play. So that's about it for now. Email me if you have any questions, but otherwise, keep doing a great job, and I hope you enjoy The Importance of Being Earnest this week.